Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Mary Grace, and I'm happy to bring to you today an esteemed guest who many of you probably are familiar with. And I have with me today Sheriff Mack. He is the first sheriff to sue the federal government and win. He is known to the Anti Defamation League as a far right extremist. And so, for that reason alone, we are happy to have him on the show. Because it sounds like he's pushing all the right buttons, and the lawsuit was having to do with gun control, and that made all the people who associate with ADL and their groups big mad, because when it comes to gun control, they want to have the guns and they don't want you to have them. That's what they mean by gun control. And so we're basing all of our decisions on the Constitution, and that's what Sheriff Mack is committed to. Welcome to the show. It's good to have you here.
Thanks so much, Mary. It is an absolute pleasure to be with you. Thanks so much for having me.
You are one of the people who is working tirelessly and have been for quite some time to get Americans motivated at the grassroots level. You go back a long ways, including to this lawsuit against the Brady law, I think it was. And this is important because I think a lot of people are just waking up, but I think it's good for people to know that there are people like you who have been working for a long time, and that it's never too late to come on board because you're committed to educating and motivating people to get involved in local action. And as a sheriff, you're doing something that is unique that a lot of people still don't know about. Can you explain to us a little bit about the constitutional sheriffs movement that you're spearheading?
Well, yeah, thank you. And I'm a former sheriff right here in Arizona, and I took on the Clinton administration, and I sued them over, you said, Brady law. Well, if we follow what the founding fathers said, it would be the Brady pretended legislation.
Okay.
They actually use that term in the Declaration of Independence. But even in my first part of the Supreme Court case, at the district court, Judge John Roll, called it an act, or he called it a bill. He didn't call it a law either.
Okay.
And so I got that a little bit from him. But then when I saw on the 27 reasons why the signer signed the Declaration of Independence, because England did pretended legislation all the time. And that's what we have in America today. And it happens a lot. And so it has to be constitutional to be a law. And folks, we are having so many stupid laws. And what did Edmund Burke call them? Edmund Burke said, the enforcement of stupid laws is the essence of tyranny. And so, folks, let's get rid of those. And that's what we exist for. And that's why we have constitutional sheriffs in this country who are educated and know enough about it that we do not enforce stupid laws. And we had 550 during COVID, probably more than 550, but I could really come close to that number, 550, in my own analysis that I did, and I followed it strictly. But let's say we had 550 sheriffs, and I think it was a little bit more than that, who actually stood against the COVID mandates. They weren't laws, even they weren't even pretended legislation. There was no legislation that allowed any law enforcement officer, any peace officer, to enforce any of the mask mandates or any of the mandates at all. They were CDC guidelines. That's all they were.
Yes.
And so anybody who arrested somebody for that was the same as arresting Martin Luther King, because he didn't commit a crime either. And Rosa Parks for not giving her seat to a white man. There was no law saying that she had to give her seat to a white man. It was a cultural norm. So what did they charge her with? Disorderly conduct. And several people got charged with not wearing a mask, and they were charged with the same thing as Rosa Parks. Maybe we need to learn from history and understand that's not our role. Forcing people to wear a mask or forcing someone to give their seat to a white man, that is not law enforcement's role. The proper role of government is, quote, that to secure these rights, Governments are instituted among men. Right out of the Declaration of Independence. Patrol officer, sheriff, chief of police, I don't care who you are in law enforcement, our role is to protect liberty. Our role is to protect civil rights. And I'd like to really know whatever happened to the civil rights movement. But we've been working on that at the CSPOA. We want to restore civil rights. We want to have sheriffs and peace officers who actually enforce the rule of law, who enforce the Bill of Rights, who defend the civil rights of every citizen in their jurisdiction. And when we do that, we restore liberty county by county and state by state. We take back our Constitution. Folks, America is on her deathbed. Our Constitution is hanging by a thread, and this will be the year. This is my prediction. 24 will be the year we decide, as an American people, we decide if we're going to give up our country to the communist takeover that's being really perpetrated by the Democrats and some Republicans. But are we going to submit to this and succumb to this, or are we going to do something to stop it and stand and get our constitutional sheriffs with our constitutional posses, which means we the people involved in the process, and we are dedicated to having a September 7th conference to make sure that happens in Orlando, Florida. You're all welcome to attend, but our goal is to raise enough money to get 1,000 sheriffs there, and we will pay their way, we will pay their hotel, and we will make sure they leave with a modest honorarium. But at least raise the money, which is going to be about $2 million to get 1,000 people there just to pay their airfare, their hotel, and their food.
And that's September 7th in Orlando. Yeah. There's a lot to unpack in what you're saying, and it's so valuable. It's so valuable because I keep thinking about what happened during COVID, and you said that people were charged with disorderly conduct. The other one that they used was trespass.
Yeah, of course.
I remember that, and I had the police called on me for being in a store without a mask. And it was quite a harrowing experience because the manager of the store actually allowed one of the other customers to assault me verbally. It was actually quite intense.
Wow.
And yeah, and she just stood there and egged it on. And it was a store that I had been patronizing. My family had patronized for generations. It was
So did the cops show up?
It was, yes, they did. Yeah. And by that time I had finished my transaction and I was on the way out the door. They wanted me to go sit in the car to pick up the item I had ordered online. And I said, I'm already here, like I'm standing here, just hand it to me. Right. It was just it was nonsense. And the cops did show up, and it was in a county that used to be red, but now is blue. And, so it was one of those things where I could tell if I took it a little further, they would have handcuffed me.
You're going in.
Yeah. So I worked my way out to the parking lot, but I called the company, I called corporate, and I talked to somebody there, and I told them what happened. And, I wanted at the very least an apology from their manager, but the way it ended is that I broke up with them forever, and I sent back everything I'd ever bought and made them send me a check. I said, I don't want a gift card. I don't want a credit. I want all of this. I want a check in the mail, and I'm never, ever setting foot in your store again. That was LL Bean. Generations. My family shopped there for generations. And that was more important to them than valuing the
I wonder what they would say now today that it's all over and it's been proved that none of that was effective or scientifically okay.
They won't acknowledge it. And it was interesting because as I was standing there being assaulted and waiting for the police to show up, I took the time to educate everybody in the store, including the young girls that were behind the plastic wearing masks, because they were a good 20 feet from me at that point. And I just I said as loudly as I could, I said, if anything that you believe to be true were actually true, you would have to remove all of your clothing before you leave the store and put it in a hazmat bin
Right.
and take a hazmat shower and then change into completely clean clothes before you leave the building. Just
Yeah,
just
good
so
point.
everybody knows.
Yeah.
And so, I was a teacher, so everything is a teachable moment, and I was like, "If I'm gonna go down, I'm gonna go down, letting people know the truth," right? And then I made the point of saying that even the governor's mandate, even though that was unlawful, it was no longer in effect, and so I don't even understand why this store is continuing to push this policy,
Right.
with no, evidence, pointing to effectiveness.
Well,
So that's kind of where I was on that. But going back to what you were saying, it's grievous to me that these peace officers took part. Now, one thing I will say, when the mandate first came down from our governor, I was in the county just north of us, Greene County in Virginia, and I saw some officers from the sheriff's office at a store, and I asked them if they were going to enforce this, and they just looked at me like they were like, no. So it's a different, between from one county to the next, you have such a different culture and understanding of what is lawful and what's not, and also just what to prioritize, right? And
right.
that's really, I think, what you're talking about as well, because we have so much happening in our country that is trending toward lawlessness, and the people are waking up and they're fed up with peace officers enforcing these ridiculous mandates, and it's really opened people's eyes. But as a sheriff, as a former sheriff, and as a grassroots activist who is really committed to training people, I wanted to ask you, what is the general consensus that you're getting when you talk to law enforcement around the country in terms of just their understanding, especially if you were to compare now versus 5 years ago?
Well, you alluded to it when you introduced me, and that is, what does the ADL, what does SPLC, Southern Poverty Law Center,
Yeah.
Washington Post, CNN? I mean, Sarah Sidner, the liar from CNN that came out to my home and interviewed me here, I said, first of all, you have to promise me you're going to say the truth about one thing. I know you're going to lie. She goes, well, why do you say that? And I said, you work for CNN, so I know you're going to lie. I said I would do the interview, but I'm asking you to do one thing. Just mention somewhere in the interview that I actually sued the federal government and won a case at the U.S. Supreme Court, because that's the only reason you and I are talking. Mary, it's the only reason. It's the only reason you and I are talking right now. It's it. I sued the federal government. That took me to national prominence. I won. And yes, 6 other sheriffs joined me in the case. I started the whole thing. I love the other sheriffs joining me. It helped immensely. Sheriff Prince filed right after me. He and I ended up at the Supreme Court together, and we won. Folks, this was so miraculous. She said she would do it. She didn't. So she said, that's like, where
Yeah.
did Sheriff Mack come from? Why is he doing any of this? No, she just says the story that I'm trying to train other law enforcement. And Anderson Cooper goes, oh no, he's training others in all of this horrible stuff. I'll say the same thing to ADL, SPLC, Sarah Sidner, the liar from CNN. I don't care. I don't care who you are. I'll tell you this right now. None of them can ever quote me ever saying anything racist or that's based on white supremacy. I am just the opposite. What I've said at CSPOA meetings and part of our entire mission statement is that liberty and civil rights are for all people, all races, all colors. There can be no exemption, because if there are, government gets to make exemptions to liberty to certain groups and help other groups and give our money to other groups and so on and so forth. They're always going to be playing that game, and everybody's going to get a turn. For instance, whose turn is it right now in America? Catholics, Christians,
Hmm.
gun owners, parents, and Amish. And the federal government has been ruthlessly, relentlessly going after Amish, because how could you allow these Amish gangs to commit these crimes of not pasteurizing their milk?
Right.
For
Right.
heaven's sakes.
Right.
And you would think that the American people could either choose that product on their own or not choose it and still go to the grocery store and buy their dairy products.
Yeah.
But I want the raw products, and I should be able to make that choice on my own.
Yeah.
And you, the federal government, should be leaving the Amish alone. But no, they won't, because that's what they do. And so the ultimate choice is this. Do we side with the sheriff from Tampa who arrested Pastor Rodney Howard Brown for having church in America, for having church? Then the tale of two sheriffs, or the tale of two cities here, Sheriff Glenn Hamilton had a pastor in his county come to him and say, I'm not shutting down. I'm keeping my church open every Sunday, and I want to know what you will do to protect me. So that was Pastor Caleb Cooper. And Sheriff Hamilton told him, if I have to go to jail myself, I will, but I will do everything in my power to keep you open.
Wow.
Pastor
What county
Cooper,
was that?
Pastor Cooper never shut down one Sunday, not once.
Wow. So good.
Because Glenn Hamilton, Sheriff Hamilton, deputized everybody in that church. And when they came to shut him down, he said, this church is under my authority. They're all deputized. They're all part of my posse. You're not shutting them down.
That's so good. What county was that? I remember hearing about that.
Sevier. I think it's Sevier. Sevier County in New Mexico. Okay. Sheriff Hamilton is retired, and he and Pastor Cooper tell this story all over the place. They will be at our September 7th conference in Orlando, and all of you are welcome to attend. And right now, you can join us in this holy cause.
Amazing.
You can be a part of the CSPOA posse. Join the CSPOA posse at cspoa.org and become a part of this solution. We train you how to work with your sheriff to form a posse in your county and thus erect the barriers and help the sheriff do his job.
I want to ask you about the process of deputizing, because this concept has come up recently in an interview that I did with somebody else, with Ivan Raiklin. Have you
I know Ivan very well.
Okay. So Ivan is
he's mistaken in a couple of areas.
Okay, well can we talk about that, because he was on the show and he's been traveling the country. He was at the RNC recently, and he seems to be everywhere at once. It's amazing. Yeah. It's crazy, but he was talking about going after his deep state target list. Right. Which is an admirable goal, worthy goal.
I agree with him on that.
And he was talking about the idea of bringing in former military, many of whom were separated from service because of their decision not to take certain medical measures that were mandated and imposed upon them. And so those people, but also retired military, retired law enforcement, but and then also lay people. I want civilians, and I wanted to ask about this process, because part of his process involves getting these people deputized in order to carry out these warrants and arrests on these deep state people, and to do it at the state level, thereby bypassing the corrupt DOJ, regardless of who is in the next administration starting in January 2025. So that's the groundwork for the hypothesis and the plan that Ivan has put into place. You said that there are a couple holes in the plan. Can you share with us, first of all, have you talked to him about this? Are you coordinating with him at all? And then how viable is this plan?
I didn't feel like I could coordinate with him and join him in what he was doing because of the two things, maybe three, that he was wrong about.
Okay.
And I told him I want him to be a part of what we're doing, and I want him to be at our September 7th meeting, and I want him to help get sheriffs recruited to be there. And our boy, I would love to have him and you help us raise the money. So and he said that he liked all of that. And then he asked very humbly, he asked, where have I said something wrong? And he asked me, he says, can the sheriffs deputize all these military? And I said, former military. And I said, if they live in his county, yes. And I said, but I know sheriffs across this country, and especially where he's really working to get sheriffs involved. And I don't know of a single sheriff that is ready to do this or that wants to do this. And I think that he jumped from going after the 350 on his deep state list to forgetting that the sheriff has to be on board first.
Right.
And
Yeah.
the sheriff cannot say, every former military from Hawaii to Bangor, Maine, come and be on my posse. Well, how can he have control of his posse that doesn't even live there?
Mm-hmm.
And he can't. That
Okay.
he can deputize any of the citizens in his county.
Okay.
And anybody that lives in his county. So if they all move there, then he could. Or do we have enough sheriffs that could do it nationwide? And that does not exist at this time.
Right.
It doesn't.
Okay. Okay.
This is a pretty big step, and it sounds like it's promoting violence. Now, that could be a misinterpretation. Either way, that could be a misinterpretation. But when you have that many former military and you're trying to get it deputized where they're going to just go and arrest the 350 on his list, is that due process? Is that the Sixth Amendment? Is that respecting one probable cause? Is there probable cause in arresting those people? If you don't have, and this is where I think, set him straight a little bit, is you must have an investigation first, not arrest and then hope that you can prove it in court. Because if you don't have the proof right then and there that these people are criminals, then you're in trouble. Okay. And these people have lawyers galore, and they're going to get right out and they're going to sue you and anybody else. Okay. So there's a process to arresting someone. Did I see the person commit the act right in front of me? Okay. Then I can go and arrest that person. I can arrest that person on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. However, if I'm getting this complaint from others and then we need to conduct the investigation, turn it over to a prosecutor, and get a judge to sign an arrest warrant or a search warrant. So that's the process. It's part of the justice system that we all agreed on when we became Americans. And so, do I agree philosophically with what he's trying to do? Absolutely. But you got to go through A, B, C before you can get all the way to Z and make these arrests and punish these people. I'm all for going after corruption in Washington, D.C. Yeah. And we can initiate investigations right now. I would love a team of sheriffs to start investigating corruption in Washington, D.C. because the FBI is not going to do that.
Right.
They're part of it. And so, so I'm totally willing. But folks, right now, I think time is of the essence that we get our sheriffs doing this county by county and keeping the federal government out of his county and putting them on notice that we're not going to allow the federal government to do a few things. There will be no gun control in this county. You will not go door to door taking guns. And every federal agent, when he comes into my county, will check in with my office first before anything. Folks, that's a protection. That is checks and balances at its zenith. And folks, we still have a chance to keep this peaceful and effective. And that's what we're doing on September 7th. Mm-hmm. And that's why we're doing it on September 7th. So we still have enough time prior to November 6th. I'm not talking November 5th. I'm talking November 6th, the day after.
Okay. I want to get to the significance of that, but I have one question before that. I was going to ask you, the key points of what it is that you feel is the role of sheriffs. You named two of them, putting the federal government on notice that they would not allow or enforce gun control in their counties, uh, making sure that federal officers
Check
check
in.
in with them so that jurisdiction is established and maintained. And then what are some more issues
Well,
that would
there's
be
going to be
key?
about maybe 10 to 15 on that list
Okay.
that we're not
Okay.
going to allow. The,
Okay.
the IRS is on there too.
Ah, good.
That we will not allow any more random, baseless, anti-Fourth Amendment audits of American citizens. Now, there's a way to unpack that too, but let me just say that's going to be on the list.
Um,
Okay. And yes,
okay.
the sheriffs can stop it.
I
Okay.
I have one question about
Oh,
the
but I
Fourth.
want to ask you your other
Yeah,
question. What's the role of the sheriff? That to secure these rights,
to secure the rights.
governments
Okay.
are instituted among men.
And
Your
so
sheriff's number one job is to protect your God-given rights. Number one.
and that brings me to a question about the Fourth Amendment, which is, cameras. My county has a camera every block. You can't drive down the freeway here
Right.
without having security. I mean, they're everywhere. It's every mile on
Mhm.
the interstate. There's a camera, and every single traffic light. And the crazy thing is, it's like they appear overnight. I've never seen a crew actually out there putting up cameras. But you go out, and one day it's there, one day it's not there, the next day it is. Uh, can you speak to that? I've asked this question many times, and everybody just says that you're not entitled to privacy.
Expectation of privacy.
Yes,
Expectation of privacy. And quite honestly, you have no expectation of privacy uh, while you're in public.
even in your vehicle.
Well, if I can see something, in fact, I've arrested people before. One, if I
Mhm.
stop you in traffic, I have to say, you were the driver. Okay. You were driving. I saw you driving. I could see in your vehicle. That's why you can't black out your windows because
Okay.
the officer gets to see inside there.
Mhm.
I get, if you're beating on your child in your car and I see that, I'm going to stop you. I can film that. Any reporter can film you driving down the street. I've had
Mhm.
it happen to me in my patrol car before. I've had it happen in my personal car before. If I'm out in the public, what do I have to expect? That anybody can take a photo of me. They can film my car, and it could be the government, which they're saying they're doing this for safety. And that
Mhm.
if somebody causes an accident, they have it on film.
Yeah.
If somebody kidnaps your kid at that corner, do you hope they have it on video so that you can find your daughter?
Mhm.
Of course we do. I'm not saying I go for this
Yeah.
1984 stuff. I don't.
Yeah.
But every now and again, it proves to where it's nice. But I will say this the rule is an expectation of privacy. In my home, if they tried to put cameras, that would be illegal. In
Mhm.
bathrooms, even in public bathrooms, they cannot put cameras. That
Okay.
is, you have an expectation of privacy
Interesting.
there.
Mhm.
If I own a restaurant and I allow the cameras, that's my doing, or a grocery store, as you talked about earlier. But
Mhm.
it really is an expectation of privacy, and that's why I don't go for nude beaches, or even the girls that wear the skimpy
Yeah. Yeah.
thong thing where they show their butts all over the place.
Yeah.
My children, my grandchildren are there at the beach with me. I don't want that. But excuse the pun, but uh, that
Right.
has been allowed, and
Exactly.
I'm not going to go to that. I'm not going to go to that park or beach anymore.
Yeah.
That's my right.
Yeah. Interesting. That's I guess
But
we there
again, it's an expectation of
yeah.
privacy is what
Mhm.
you really have to judge there.
Yeah, and I guess there are some nuances that could come into play there when it comes to jurisdiction or things like that, but I think that's something that is definitely a question for me, and it feels so invasive.
But
Um,
but 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 people have said this about cops. Cops wanted to make against the law filming them. That's BS.
right,
As soon as
right.
they step outside their home in their uniform, you can film everything they do. Just
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah.
well, it's the same thing with you.
Mhm,
I can follow you around in a camera all day if I want.
Mhm, mhm. Um, eh, I want to let people know your website again so that because your points are there as well. And I have a question if you have a couple of more minutes. I want to talk about what happened last week in Butler County, Pennsylvania, when our President Trump was just survived by a millimeter, an attempted assassination. We're starting to see reports, the senator from Wisconsin, I wanna say Grassley, but it's not. I'll get it,
Johnson.
Johnson. Senator Johnson from Wisconsin has had whistleblowers coming forward to him, talking about, multiple shooters, but really the breakdown in the protocol, the
Oh yeah,
security protocol.
yeah,
Would you address that for a moment as a law enforcement
yeah.
professional? This is something that is, to me, it feels like there was some incompetence. I know, like, never attribute to malice what can be chalked up to just
Incompetent.
incompetence.
Yeah.
So, how do you
Good
how
point,
do you
Mary.
see this falling? How do you see this playing out here?
It's not going to be good, and it's again, it's mounting again
Yeah,
with us not trusting the federal government.
yeah,
This
yeah.
is just one of the another cog in the wheel of the distrust there. But both Democrats and Republicans, before I got on your show, they're already interviewing and interrogating and really reaming her, the female director of the Social Security Administration,
You
the
mean the Secret Service?
Secret Service
Yeah.
Administration. Secret Service uh, should not be a law enforcement agency. They are a security agency and private security for public officials in Washington, D.C. most of the time. Okay. I worked with the Secret Service during 1996, my last year as sheriff, when Pat Buchanan, presidential candidate, came to our county.
Okay.
I knew him. He's a friend of mine.
Mhm.
And this was one time sheriffs choose to acquiesce because it's not our specialty. Celebrity protection and uh, politician protection or presidential candidates is their specialty. It's not mine. And I said, I will work with you and help you any way that you want us to. And every local official usually does that, and they should. Even though the sheriff is the chief law enforcement officer of the county, he could say, whatever he wants to try to push his weight around. No, 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 no. We're here to help them. They have a job to do. They are in charge, and they were in charge in Butler. Okay. It was the Secret Service. It was their plan. It was their protocols that they violated. And Mary, I'm going to tell you this. I'm not much into prejudging, but I have on this particular case because the incompetence was so egregious. It makes you think they did it on purpose. And if
Can
they
you
did it on purpose,
outline for us a couple of the points of incompetence that, should
oh,
be highlighted?
that the security perimeter didn't reach that building. Well, it did, and there were some officers and Secret Service inside that building. Well, if they were inside that building, and that guy's climbing up. And why were they not on top of the building? Inside the building doesn't help nearly as much as on top. Some said it was a flimsy roof. Well, crooks made it. And if it's a flimsy roof, then you put some stabilizing equipment there to make sure you don't fall through the tin
Sloped.
roof.
It was sloped.
But yeah, and
That.
but he made it. The
Yeah, yeah.
crook made it. Crooks made it is his last name. And folks, when the officer and I complain about the officer, I have some criticism towards the deputy sheriff or Butler PD, whoever it was, that actually saw him, confronted him, and then Crooks pointed the gun at him, and he fell down and hurt himself a little bit. Right then, he should have been firing his gun in the air. He should have done anything he could to make sure every other police officer and Secret Service agent knew there was a threat. And the only way to do that, now you're trained not to do warning shots with guns.
Right.
Sorry, you throw the book out then. He and his partner should have been firing shots and made everyone know, because right then, immediately when the complaint came out, and this is huge for the Secret Service. As soon as and this got reported to them anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes before the shots were fired by crooks, it came out. Right then and there, they should have removed Trump from the stage and put him in a vehicle and got him out of there.
Yeah.
They may have been able to clear it and brought him back after an hour. Probably not. Once you have a suspect with a gun, that meeting is over. That event is over. That campaign event is over. But they didn't do it. They didn't get him out of there. And one other one that looks very suspicious to me at this time, the sniper, the Secret Service sniper who was on the pedestal, was up there high enough. It looked like, and I don't have the evidence to prove that he did, it looked like he was looking right at crooks on that building with his gun. And then a shot was fired, and the Secret Service agent looked above the sights of his gun and then went back to his sights and killed him. If that is what happened, this is so egregious and so a huge violation of protocols that you have to start now suspecting some of those Secret Service agents. And just mistakes they made were that they didn't get him off the stage sooner, that they didn't keep that circle around him. Obviously, the women agents were too short, and they keep that circle around him as they take him down the stairs. They totally exposed him to another shooter. We didn't know how many shooters were there. Yeah. They totally exposed Trump, and here he is going up with his hand again. If I was the Secret Service, they were required to put his hand down, say, Mr. President, keep your hands down. Let us get you off of here. He demanded to get his shoes. They should have said, no, come on. And he should have been immediately in that vehicle without ever. You saw twice where Secret Service put their hands in front of his head. So what? They completely exposed everything from his waist up right after that, taking him down the stairs.
Yeah.
That was a legitimate mistake, but some of these others were absolutely not. No way.
I have one question about the protocol when you have a suspect in your sights, such as this. Now, normally the protocol is don't fire unless fired upon, correct? Is that
not not if he already has a gun pointed at you?
Oh, okay.
No.
So you don't have to wait for them to fire. Okay. No. Okay. I wanted to clarify that. No. So they were well within their rights and within protocol to fire on that suspect.
Yeah. Right.
Very interesting. Thank you for explaining that. I know I do hope that this investigation yields true results because as you said, the trust that the American people have right now in our government is, I think, at an all-time low. And I think also in law enforcement.
They've earned every bit of that.
Right. And also in law enforcement, unfortunately, because of things like we discussed with COVID, there is a deep level of mistrust. And I do hope that you and your organization and the sheriffs in this country, there are over 3,000, correct? Over 3,000 sheriffs?
3,086 sheriffs, yes.
Okay, 3,086. That even if you get a third of those, right? Hopefully that will be a start, and that's your goal right now.
That's our goal
in getting them to this event in Orlando. Can you tell?
I've been doing this for 20 years, and so a lot of the sheriffs know what they're supposed to know, but this has taken it to a higher level. Okay. We're raising the bar.
Okay. Can you tell our listeners one more time where to find you and how to get involved and the details of your event, Sheriff Mack?
Thank you. Well, every one of you should be very familiar with cspoa.org. You should become a member. It's called the CSPOA Posse. We train you to develop that in your own communities and how to work with your sheriff to take back America, county by county, state by state. We're having an event, Save America, Restore. This is an action plan. It's not a, Save America and then we pat everybody on the back, and we go to the next town and do the same thing. Folks, this is an action plan where your sheriffs are going to know the 5 law enforcement authorities delegated to the federal government: treason, counterfeiting, piracies, protect our borders. They're supposed to protect each state from invasion, and crimes against treaties that we have with other countries. Those are the only 5 law enforcement authorities they have. Outside of that, the states must make them refer to the 10th Amendment, that the powers not delegated to them belong to the states or to the people. So we have a lot of work to do in that regard. Just so you know, all of this is constitutional. That's why I brought that up. We need your help. We need your help funding this. We need your involvement. And we need you to join the holy cause of liberty with us today, because if you don't, this does not remain peaceful. And we are dedicating our lives to keeping it a peaceful and effective solution. You must be on board to make that happen with us.
Sheriff Mack, thank you for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you too.
Listen, your health is your best investment. We have a country to save, and we need people who are in the best shape of their lives, physically, mentally, spiritually. Why not connect with a team who cares about you on every single level from the inside out? Official Synapse is that team. Officialsynapse.com. It's official, synapse.com. Tell them Mary Grace sent you, and they will treat you like family. If you're like most people, you really probably haven't thought about transferring your paper dollars into physical gold and silver. But I want to tell you a story. My friend Andrew Sorcini over at Beverly Hills Precious Metals, he recently went overseas and he wanted to buy a watch. He likes fine watches. He took 3 currencies with him. He took gold, he took Bitcoin, and he took American dollars. Now, there used to be a time when the American dollar was king. I remember that when I used to travel overseas. Everybody wanted dollars. The people that he was dealing with would not take his dollars because the dollar is so devalued around the world. They wanted the gold. So this is what I recommend to you. I want you to think about this. If you have cash in the bank, if you have an investment account that you have worked hard for years to accumulate, consider the value of converting that money into physical gold and silver. You're not buying something that's losing value. You're changing those worthless dollars into a tangible physical asset that will go up in value, which it has done historically. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to go to bh-pm.com. The first thing you're going to do is schedule that free consultation. Second thing, just think rationally about this, pray about it, go to the Lord, see what the best decision for you and your family is. I can't tell you that. I don't want to pressure you into that. What I do know is don't be scared, be prepared. And so the third thing you want to do is make a decision for you and your family. Make a decision, take action. bh-pm.com. Let them know Mary Grace sent you. When it comes to food, we really want to be aware of what is in the food that we're consuming. And that includes different types of technologies, jibber jabbers, technology that can alter your genetic makeup. And this is why we want to focus on American grown beef that isn't injected with things that you wouldn't put into your own body. We really don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. We saw 4 years ago what happened when the whole country shut down and people couldn't even go to the grocery store. We saw what happened when meat and other foods were rationed, and that could happen any day. We want you to be prepared. We want you to take action. And one of the best ways to do that is to secure food for yourself and your family. What better way than to go to griddownchowdown.com, use promo code Mary Grace, get a sustainable, reliable, shelf-stable source of high-quality American beef. All you do is go to griddownchowdown.com, tell them Mary Grace sent you, put your order in the basket and check out, and you're good to go. The other thing you can do is you can get a subscription. If you do a subscription, you're going to get this freeze-dried beef delivered to your door every month. And you're going to save a little bit while you do that. You're going to stockpile it, or you can just cook with it. Some people are just using it for their regular cooking. It's really up to you, but it's super convenient because it's freeze-dried and it's shelf-stable for 12, 15 years or more. Go to griddownchowdown.com and use promo code Mary Grace. I just want to give a shout out to everybody who watches this show. Thank you for being a participant. Thank you for being a loyal audience member. I just want to remind you, if you like what you've seen, please share this and don't forget to subscribe, turn on your notifications, and also sign up for my email list so you never miss a show. Listen, your health is your best investment. We have a country to save, and we need people who are in the best shape of their lives, physically, mentally, spiritually. Why not connect with a team who cares about you on every single level from the inside out? Official Synapse is that team. Officialsynapse.com. It's official, synapse.com. Tell them Mary Grace sent you, and they will treat you like family. If you're like most people, you really probably haven't thought about transferring your paper dollars into physical gold and silver. But I want to tell you a story. My friend Andrew Sorcini over at Beverly Hills Precious Metals, he recently went overseas and he wanted to buy a watch. He likes fine watches. He took 3 currencies with him. He took gold, he took Bitcoin, and he took American dollars. Now, there used to be a time when the American dollar was king. I remember that when I used to travel overseas. Everybody wanted dollars. The people that he was dealing with would not take his dollars because the dollar is so devalued around the world. They wanted the gold. So this is what I recommend to you. I want you to think about this. If you have cash in the bank, if you have an investment account that you have worked hard for years to accumulate, consider the value of converting that money into physical gold and silver. You're not buying something that's losing value. You're changing those worthless dollars into a tangible physical asset that will go up in value, which it has done historically. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to go to bh-pm.com. The first thing you're going to do is schedule that free consultation. Second thing, just think rationally about this, pray about it, go to the Lord, see what the best decision for you and your family is. I can't tell you that. I don't want to pressure you into that. What I do know is don't be scared, be prepared. And so the third thing you want to do is make a decision for you and your family. Make a decision, take action. bh-pm.com. Let them know Mary Grace sent you. When it comes to food, we really want to be aware of what is in the food that we're consuming. And that includes different types of technologies, jibber jabbers, technology that can alter your genetic makeup. And this is why we want to focus on American grown beef that isn't injected with things that you wouldn't put into your own body. We really don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. We saw 4 years ago what happened when the whole country shut down and people couldn't even go to the grocery store. We saw what happened when meat and other foods were rationed, and that could happen any day. We want you to be prepared. We want you to take action. And one of the best ways to do that is to secure food for yourself and your family. What better way than to go to griddownchowdown.com, use promo code Mary Grace, get a sustainable, reliable, shelf-stable source of high-quality American beef. All you do is go to griddownchowdown.com, tell them Mary Grace sent you, put your order in the basket and check out, and you're good to go. The other thing you can do is you can get a subscription. If you do a subscription, you're going to get this freeze-dried beef delivered to your door every month. And you're going to save a little bit while you do that. You're going to stockpile it, or you can just cook with it. Some people are just using it for their regular cooking. It's really up to you, but it's super convenient because it's freeze-dried and it's shelf-stable for 12, 15 years or more. Go to griddownchowdown.com and use promo code Mary Grace. I just want to give a shout out to everybody who watches this show. Thank you for being a participant. Thank you for being a loyal audience member. I just want to remind you, if you like what you've seen, please share this and don't forget to subscribe, turn on your notifications, and also sign up for my email list so you never miss a show.